Morning, guys, on Proverbs chapter 19, reading from verse 1 to 10. Verse 1: Better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than he who is perverse in speech and is a fool. And just that correlation between riches and poor, and how the world, as we're going to see other verses here, kind of highly regard the rich. But it's far better to be poor and have integrity than he who is perverse in speech and who is a fool. So someone who can guard their tongue, who's godly, who's righteous, is far better off than someone who's quick with his tongue and lots of money. Proverbs 16 verse 8 says, Better is a little with righteousness than great revenues with injustice. And we see that throughout Proverbs. People chase money and power and fame, but God's eyes is far better to have a little bit of righteousness than great revenues. Verse 2: Also is not good for a person to be without knowledge, and he who hurries his footsteps errs. So those without knowledge, we know knowledge is so important. Knowledge of the law, knowledge of the Bible, knowledge of the scriptures, and then the application of that knowledge is really wisdom. But we've got to start with, what does God want of us? What is God's will? And so important. Proverbs 18:15: The mind of the prudent acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. And so we need to be seeking after knowledge. We need to be reading the Bible so that we can know the things of the Lord. And the knowledge will help us to not make mistakes. But he who hurries, it says, second part of verse 2, hurries his footsteps errs. When you rush into things and you don't seek other counselors, you make quick decisions, you can often make unwise decisions. Verse 3: The foolishness of a man ruins his way, and his heart rages against the Lord. The fool not only does he ruin his way, but he's actually anti-God. He's against God. He rages against God. And so those that are wise and applying the scriptures are for God. But often we just think, oh, that fool's made a bad mistake, he deserves what he gets. But he's actually anti-God. He rages against God. Verse 4: Wealth adds many friends, but a poor man is separated from his friend. And as we've already discussed, yes, you chase after wealth, you get the fame, you get the friends, and unfortunately even the poor man is going to lose, singular, his only friend, because ultimately that's the fickleness of man, that if you've got nothing to offer me, I'll just move on to the next guy. Verse 5: A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who tells lies will not escape. And we're going to see a repetition here in verse 9, almost word by word. But ultimately, a false prophet, God does not tolerate lies. Specifically those who are going to stand and then be a witness against someone else. Unfortunately, here again, money plays a part. Money buys lies, so people get paid a lot to bear a false testimony in a court against someone else. But God sees all, and that person will not, as it says in verse 5, escape. Verse 6: Many will seek the favor of a generous man, and every man is a friend to him who gives gifts. Again, just that following that theme of wealth, bringing friendships, and people unfortunately are fickle. They love gifts, they love material things, and so every man is a friend to him who gives. And if you want to buy friends, you just got to give them a lot of stuff. Verse 7: All the brothers of a poor man hate him, how much more do his friends abandon him? He pursues them with words, but they are gone. Again, just going along that theme, unfortunately, the poor man will lose his friends in a fickle, fallen world. Verse 8: He who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding will find good. Just a repetition of what we've learned already, the importance of gaining knowledge of God, knowing the Bible, getting the wisdom, someone who's feeding his soul. He who keeps understanding, not only getting that knowledge, but actually keeping it, will find good. And so it's an application of that knowledge, but it's also remembering these things that God is teaching us. And now going to verse 19, almost a word for word repetition of verse 5. A false witness will not go unpunished. God will judge a false witness. he who tells lies will perish. And so it's stronger than verse 9 now ends with a stronger word in the Hebrew than unpunished of verse 5. It says he will perish. The consequences are severe for those who tell lies and are paid to tell lies, and it's trap, and God will not tolerate that. When you see these repetitions in Scripture, we've got to take it seriously. And just to end with today, verse 10, luxury is not fitting for a fool, much less for a slave to rule over princes. And so much to think about today. Trust you have a godly day. Amen.